Welcome, welcome everybody. It's Misha. Yeah, another late night live. This may be the time slot because life is just so busy. It really is becoming one of the only times I can do this, and I'm kind of a night owl, so it works. I want to talk about insulin resistance. We're going to talk again today about what's causing insulin resistance. And yes, it's more than sugar. I get that. So let's talk about a number of the things that cause insulin resistance. Insulin resistance. I want to explain a little bit in brief what insulin resistance is, why it's important to you, and then we're going to get to how you can start to take care of it. So, let's start with what insulin resistance is. So many people don't know. It's the reason you're heavy for most people. It can be the root of PCOS, erectile dysfunction, brain fog, migraine headaches, belly fat. It's very linked to joint disorders, gastrointestinal disorders. Thanks for the loves and likes. You guys, I see you all coming in, and thank you for this late night love. I love it. So, but what is insulin resistance? It's very simply this. It's your body's response to the need for energy. So when we're ingesting energy in the form of carbohydrates, our insulin goes up, and it's produced in something called the pancreas. Now, we'll get to a little bit about the pancreas later, but so you have a rise in blood sugars. You've eaten something that spikes your blood sugar, and just about everything we eat, except for some healthy fats that I'll talk about, spike your blood sugar. Even proteins minimally spike your blood sugar. Now, you have this energy in your system. That's the blood sugar, right? That sugar coursing around your system is the energy your body needs, and every cell needs this energy. But how does it get to the cells? Well, that's insulin's job. So we have a spike in blood sugar. We have energy that needs to get to cells. Our beautiful body says, hey, pancreas, produce this hormone called insulin. Now, insulin is like a transport system. It grabs a hold of this energy and tries to get it out of your bloodstream so that it can get into the cells. So think of insulin as the key to the lock on your cells. When insulin arrives, it's meant to open up that cell and allow that energy in. That's insulin's job. It's not giving you the energy, it's just transporting it and allowing it into the cell. But what's happened in today's world is that we eat so much. We're under so much stress. And I'm going to go over a couple of other things that cause insulin spikes. But right now, we'll talk about sugar. So when we have this happen and the body starts to get inundated or overwhelmed by these constant cues from insulin, knock, knock, knock on the door, the body starts to shut down. So think about this. If you are living in an apartment complex and you have the neighborly friend that comes by and wants to bring you gifts or chat once in a while, you're going to open the door and let them in, right? But if you have these college students who are drunk and rampaging through your halls, knocking on everybody's door, or young kids and ding doorbell ditching, whatever, you're going to stop opening your door. You're going to be like, I'm not having it. You're annoying me. That's kind of how the body feels with insulin high all the time. How did we get here? We have these packaged, processed, highly processed foods that are high in sugars, low in fiber and nutrients, and it's just delivering way too much sugar into the bloodstream. So is insulin resistance a new disorder? No, it's not. We've created it being such a big thing because of the food we eat. So I want everybody to understand that insulin really just transports energy. And when the cells say no to that energy that's being transported, the insulin stays high because it's still got to get rid of that blood sugar. And eventually it becomes what we call insulin resistance. Now, the interesting thing a lot of people don't understand or put together is, they talk about excess calories being why we have fat. Well, yes, true. But excess calories are a glucose spike in the system. And when the body cannot use all of the energy that's in the system, then it's going to have to, insulin is going to have to store that somewhere. Now, I see this. I see somebody was just diagnosed with prediabetes. So just hold on a second, Diastad, because I'm going to explain to you what that is and how we can get that taken care of before it ever gets to be full-blown diabetes. Just hang on a minute because I'm going to get there really quickly. So When we have this resistance, so cells are saying no, insulin's like, but I got to deliver this. And then you're eating more, spiking the blood sugar again. Insulin's pretty smart. It's going to go, hey, you know what? So the cells don't want to use it. They're full. They're saying, no, we have a storage unit in our body, and that storage unit is our fat cells. Now, insulin is delivering that energy into the fat cells and it's rushing back out to get the new glucose you've put in your system, and the cycle starts all over again. You're starting to get heavy. Your belly is starting to grow. You're starting to have brain fog and sugar cravings and energy highs and lows and all of this stuff that people just don't recognize. So, look at the list, or over on YouTube, Facebook, look at the list and recognize that if you have any of these symptoms, you might be insulin resistant. Now, if you look at that and you say, I have this one and this one, you're more likely to be insulin resistant. But if you say, I'm having troubles losing weight, I have bloating, I have low energy, I've been diagnosed with prediabetes, I have PCOS, now we're pretty likely, pretty damn well sure to say you're insulin resistant. And the problem is doctors are not catching it in the test because they're testing your blood glucose levels. Remember, for a while, insulin is able to deliver that sugar just into the fat cells and not into the energy cells to the cells for energy that we need. So it goes undiagnosed for a very long time for many, many people. Now, what we need to do is reduce the load of insulin in the body, and that's going to help all of this start to get better. There's a circular reference between many of these disorders: arthritis, Parkinson's, gout, kidney stones, all of that, with insulin resistance, high levels of insulin in the body. So we know, most of us know that we're eating too much sugar, especially the refined sugars, and that's a big problem. But before I dive into everything else, I'm also very aware that sugar is not the only thing causing insulin to spike. So what else is causing insulin to spike? Because I want you guys to understand, this doesn't have to be complicated. We're going to make it very simple. But I want you to understand the other areas of your life that could be causing some of this insulin problem. Okay, so there are things like the refined carbohydrates we've talked about. Did you guys know that stress and the resulting spike of cortisol can cue a spike of insulin? Insulin can cue a spike of cortisol. Pretty damn damning, right? So you got to keep your stress levels down. Meditation, gratitude, that's great. Get some good sleep. That's going to help. But is it going to cure the fact that you're putting too much sugar in your face? No. But is it going to help with your insulin levels? Yes. So then we have inflammation. And inflammation can be, maybe you have allergies, maybe you've had a surgery, maybe you've had any kind of injury that causes inflammation in the body. When that inflammation spikes, it can cause a resulting spike in insulin. Now, if your body's already being inundated with sugars, that's going to mean an even bigger spike of insulin. By the way, I didn't mention that these refined processed carbohydrates can spike your insulin 3 to 10 times higher than a normal carbohydrate from fruits and vegetables. So that's a pretty big spike difference, especially when we're looking at starchy things like white potatoes, breads, white rice. That can really spike the insulin. Then you add on inflammation and stress, and now you're in trouble, right? Those are not the only things, and I don't want to make it complicated. But lack of sleep. Most of us are keyboard warriors. We're doom scrollers, and we're watching these lives late at night where we're on our phones all the time. That blue light and that lack of sleep that we're getting causes a spike of insulin. And I can go over that on another live. Now, some people say overeating. I already addressed that. We have too much energy. If you're eating those foods that are high on the GI scale, so they're like the breads, rice, pasta things, that's going to cause it. A lack of physical activity. I addressed this last night a little bit. We need to be physically active because our muscles are a major user of insulin. When we use our muscles, when we're active, there's more places for that energy to go other than our fat cells. Good evening, Maria. I'm so glad to see you again. I've missed all my friends. So that can happen. But did you know that certain medications can increase your insulin as well? So things like steroids, beta blockers, antipsychotics can increase your likelihood of being insulin resistant. So it's just this onslaught. Now, if we have meals that are high in fat, especially trans fats and seed oils, and high in carbohydrates, now you're doubling down on that insulin spike. So really, I did a video on fats, and I'm going to keep coming back to fats. Stay away from the seed oils and the trans fats. Most trans fats have been or supposed to have been eliminated from our foods, but you guys, there's a threshold. They can still be in your foods. Maybe they've adjusted the portion size so that the portion size is 3 potato chips, and they can say there's 0 trans fats when there's actually trans fats if you have 6 potato chips, right? So be careful with some of those things. Get the fats that are going into your body, the right fats, and it will help. So yes, it's true that some fats can spike your insulin, and those seed oils and trans fats have been shown to do that. So alcohol consumption actually spikes your insulin, and that's a big problem. Now, back to sugar. All right, let's get back to it. So when we're looking at what our body uses for energy, I talked last night about the 3 macronutrients. We have carbohydrates, we have proteins, and we have fats. Okay, so carbohydrates spike your insulin the highest. Proteins will spike your insulin the second highest. And the fats that I talk about really don't spike your insulin at all. So metabolic scientists say it's a 0 spike with these fats: extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, and ghee. So let's focus on those things. Now, I also have an ebook, a free ebook. Just go to my link and check for it. It's called 6 Simple Steps to Managing Your Insulin Resistance. And a lot of this is laid out in there, so you can have it to refer back to, because you're not going to remember everything I say tonight. But when we look at our food sources, okay, taking fats off the table, we understand that. We talked a little bit about it last night. When we look at protein, we have to understand that protein is really not a fuel source. It's a building block resource. However, it still does spike your insulin minimally, about half of what a natural carbohydrate does. So understand that. Now we're down to the carbohydrates, the real root of the problem. And typically it's been that if we're eating our raw organic foods, that doesn't bother us. But the problem is that our foods have been so modified today that the fibers have been stripped out, nutrients have been stripped out, and those foods just do not act in our body the way that they were meant to. This is why pescatarians and vegetarians are still struggling with insulin resistance. You add on things like the packaged processed foods, and now we have a conundrum. So almost every lifestyle related chronic disease that we have today is rooted in insulin resistance. So when you look at your life and you think, I didn't think my life was going to be like this. I never knew that this was how my life was going to be. I never thought I would be this sick. Hey, Maria, yay! So understand that it's really the food system that we have that has gotten us here. Whether you're eating organic foods or not, you're probably still going to have to supplement with things to help your body be healthy. We're lower in iron in a number of foods. In fact, some foods are about 70% less dense in nutrients than they were even 50 years ago. So that means we're getting all the carbohydrates, we're getting some really tasty stuff, but we're not getting the energy and the nutrients that we need out of our food today. And that's a problem. And we're all stuck in it. And especially here in the US, it's a real problem. Our food system in the US has really been making us sick. It just keeps hitting in the back of my head that I need to re-explain that things like beta blockers, a lot of the blood pressure medications, a lot of the anti-cholesterol medications can actually be spiking your insulin and making it worse over time. So what's the answer? And back to the prediabetes. It goes a little something like this. Now you're insulin resistant. We explained that. Insulin resistance really is the root of diabetes and prediabetes. So if you're diagnosed with prediabetes, if you're diagnosed with diabetes, you are insulin resistant. Whether you're thin, whether you're heavy, you're insulin resistant if you have diabetes. Okay, that's what that is. Diabetes is kind of end stage insulin resistance. And yet, as I said earlier, doctors are not catching it. So it's up to us to take control of our health, to give our health the things that we need in order to start to thrive again. Okay. And this helps us. I will back up here too, because it's not just that, it's our weight. How many people are struggling with weight that you just can't take off? You don't have the energy. You're constantly craving sugars. You're constantly craving salts. You eat, and a half an hour later, you're hungry again. That's insulin resistance, and that's causing havoc in your body. So all that's really necessary, I mean, we can do all of the things. Cut down on the blue light, get more sleep, do the gratitude, try and be more positive in life. But if you're suffering with insulin resistance, then you are suffering with depression and anxiety and all of the other things. Which GLUT receptors are desensitized in this insulin resistance, GLUT2 or GLUT4? Matt, I can't give you that answer because I'm not a scientist. I'm just a regular person like you guys. So I am not the doctor or scientist. Dr. Bickman could answer that. Now, there's a back door for sugar to come in, and that is GLUT4. So what you're talking about is like when we get into a state of ketosis and we're actually burning fat for fuel, and there's a little bit of glucose in that, because remember, fat is stored glucose. We're not spiking the insulin because we have receptors like GLUT4 that allow that energy into the cells. Okay. So I don't know if I would call it desensitized to insulin, but it's another avenue in for certain types of energy, which brings me to ketosis and fasting. We talked about fasting last night, and somebody said it's so restrictive. I know they didn't say it like that, but I did. So, and it's tough. Like, I get it. I didn't think I could intermittent fast either. But the truth of the matter is, when we're inundated with insulin, I love you too, Maria. Love you too. You're such an amazing light in my life. Now, when we have insulin resistance, it's too much insulin too often. We need to get the insulin levels down and give our body a break from this constant onslaught, the constant knocking at the cells of insulin. And how do we do that? If we're still eating, all the time, we're constantly spiking our insulin. So that does mean that we need to slow our roll on the amount of food we put in and rolls we put into our face. And we're going to talk a little bit about how this can look. Okay. So intermittent fasting doesn't have to be scary, but it is necessary for us to start to address insulin. It takes about 8 hours after your last bite of food for insulin levels to really come down to a point where your body can start to go through the processes of getting into a fat burning state, of starting to have energy from other sources, of becoming metabolically flexible. Because remember, we have two sources of energy for our body: fat and carbohydrates. Right now, we're all running on carbohydrates, and we need to teach our body again to use fat for fuel. Now, back in the day when we were hunter gatherers, in the summertime, we would load up on all the carbohydrates, kind of overeat, build up the fat stores. That's because, I'm going to read that in a second, Maria. That's because in lean times during the winter, when food wasn't as available, we needed those fat stores just to get through the winter. We're not in that state anymore. We don't need to eat like that all the time. The human body was not meant to eat like we eat all the time, and that's a big problem. So fasting is one of the great ways that we can start to help insulin resistance. And I'm not talking about 3-day fast, 5-day fast, 10-day fast, 30-day fast. Don't get scared by it. I'm talking about, I had my dinner at about 7 o'clock tonight. We're going to talk about how I eat in a day. So that means if I don't eat anything else tonight, having some water, and I just go to bed. By the time I wake up in the morning, I've already been fasting for 10 to 12 hours. Yeah, fasting while I sleep. Now, the cue is when I wake up in the morning, instead of going for a bagel, a waffle, a pancake, a Starbucks coffee, a croissant with very little ham and cheese in it, or whatever, I'm not going to eat. I'm going to allow my body to stay in this state where insulin levels are down. When insulin is down, our ketones come up, our HGH, human growth hormone, comes up. Guess what? When those, and I'm not a big fan of keto, right? I think we should have some carbohydrates, especially in menopause. I find that when I try to go too high into keto, I lose less weight. I have problems with weight. When I allow myself some carbohydrates from time to time, my body does better. So it's independent to you. But when you're in a fasted state, a lot of people will say you're hangry, you get crabby. No, you don't. When your body switches from sugar to fat for fuel, you have more mental clarity. Your heart starts pumping more efficiently when ketones are present. When you have this little bit of fasted state going on, your heart's delivering more blood flow to the body. Your liver is functioning better. It's dumping off some of the fat. The first places that fat comes from when you're in a fasted state is those fat stores on your liver. Your mental clarity, I said, is better. Your moods are better. And you just start to perform at like you're on high octane when your body's finally burning fat for fuel. Now, it's not meant to burn fat for fuel all the time. So then we need to eat. What happens when I break my fast, which will be about noon tomorrow or so? The first thing I'm going to eat, and I've really, I'm always doing crazy things, but I found these. Somebody mentioned cottage cheese and eggs. So I mix cottage cheese and a couple of eggs. I actually take about 6 eggs and about a cup of cottage cheese, mix some good hard cheese into that, throw it in a little mini bun cake pan, bake it. Now I have 6 days of breakfast. When I wake up in the morning, I'll throw some more no nitrate ham on it and some cheese, high fats, high protein, low carbohydrate. That's the first meal that I'm going to eat. Why? When I eat a meal like that, it encourages me to stay in a fat burning state a little bit longer. It encourages that high energy a little bit longer. It stops the shutdown of my energy a little bit longer. Now, for dinner at 7 tonight, what I had was some chicken cordon bleu that I made. So chicken breast, no nitrate ham, Swiss cheese. Yes, it was on a bed of rice, and I made my own Alfredo sauce, so no added sugars or trans fats or anything in that, but a yummy, delicious meal with some carbohydrates in it. That's not going to break the bank. And this is how I've been eating for almost 4 years and maintained being in an insulin sensitive state. Now, Maria, the comment she said, fasting is not hard. You'll get used to intermittent fasting. She's been doing it for 2 years. It's easy. Now, why do I say it's easy? One of the things that happens is your body at first and always is perceiving when you do a fast that it doesn't have energy. Oh my God, you didn't eat sugar today. You haven't had sugar or high carbohydrates for 12 or 14 hours, and your body at first may be screaming at you, saying, I need energy. Well, what we do, what Maria and I have done, is we add this tea into our day. Now, the tea doesn't break the fast. It has some caffeine in it, but it has a number of other components, nutrients, and other components in this that give us energy, because that hunger you're feeling, that dip in energy you're feeling, that brain fog you're feeling is likely just your body's need for energy. Okay, so let me address this. I fasted, but my glucose went down to 30. Yeah. So here's the thing. When you're highly insulin resistant and your body is not used to not getting sugar, it's going to freak out a little bit. So this is what Dr. Bickman, my favorite metabolic scientist, says. If your blood sugar drops down to 60, you're probably okay in the absence of fatigue, feeling like you want to pass out, jitteriness, all of that. If you start feeling those symptoms, you need to eat something. So some people are so insulin resistant, so their pancreas is just not working right. Their body's not responding to the insulin well. So you may have to start with a shorter time period of fasting and start paying attention to those processed carbohydrates you're eating during the day until your body can self adjust, right? I A couple of years ago, I like to test things out. I have these crazy ideas. So I did a 3-day fast, and then a while later I did a 5-day fast, and I did a 7-day fast, and I did a 10-day fast, and I'm checking my blood sugars and checking my ketones to see what was going on in my body. Now, at that point, I didn't really understand some of these things. My blood sugars dropped down to about 60, and I was starting to panic because it was in the middle of the night, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what if I'm tired and I pass out and I don't wake up?" Well, what happened was, and on my monitor, my blood sugar started to climb back up because your body is innately intelligent. Now, you are probably very dysregulated, and so your body just doesn't know what to do. Most of us will go down to about 60 on our blood sugars. If you're wearing a continuous glucose monitor or monitoring like that, you might see that. Mine would go between 60 and 120, and I was like, how is my blood sugar going up to 120 when I'm not even eating anything? 5 days in, 7 days in, 10 days in, my blood sugar is spiking. It wasn't really spiking, it was going up to 120, which is way better than the 200 and something it used to be at. That's really just my body utilizing fat, getting energy back into the bloodstream, and that's what's happening. But 30 is definitely too low, hon. Be careful. Anybody, if you're below 60, then you want to eat something. And guess what? You know what? A gentle way to get your blood sugars back up. Now, 30, maybe some fruits and vegetables, yeah, but not packaged carbohydrates, because then you're just training your body back into the same thing. Orange juice and that they used to give in the offices that I worked in, those are horrible too. But proteins are great to start getting your blood sugars back up. Maybe add a little bit of a natural carbohydrate with that, but definitely 30 is very low. So let me see if there was any other questions. Okay. So we have this cycle that we're going through with blood sugar spikes, with insulin, all of that. And what I really want you to understand is when insulin is high, you cannot lose weight. Your body is in rebellion. Insulin tells you insulin is an apple is okay, but you know what would be even better, Meg? Is things like there's two fruits that every scientist that I've listened to will talk about as far as this glucose regulation thing. So one is berries. We all know berries, especially like the deeper colored berries, blueberries, blackberries. Those are really good sources of carbohydrate that aren't going to spike your insulin, your blood sugar's too high. But there's an amazing one that's kind of a cousin to an apple, and it's called a pear. Now, it's sweet, right? But it is high in fiber. It's also high in something called chlorogenic acids. Chlorogenic acids give you energy. They do a lot in your body, and pears are one of the highest fruits in this chlorogenic acid that's also present in the tea. Okay, so apples are good, yes. If I have fruit in my house, it's either going to be blueberries or pears. And that's just how it is. I will throw a pear in my protein shake once in a while, blueberries in my protein shake once in a while. I don't do it often, but yeah. And the crunchier the fruit is, that's a good instant indication that there's fiber in the fruit. Okay. When you look at things like oranges and grapefruits and they have this really thick skin, they've changed that fruit so much to try and get the size out of it, and you're just not getting the fiber you need. Now let's talk about fiber really quick. Fiber protects you from a blood sugar spike. Fiber is like your sugar prophylactic, okay? The problem is most of our foods are very deficient in fiber, um, even the ones that I lost it because I was reading a comment over on the other channel. So Maria says the person who had a 30 blood sugar, could she take a balance to help with her glucose? I Not for low glucose. If you're wanting to keep your glucose level as you're working into fasting, which is what we should be doing, balance is key. I still have balance is the pre-meal drink that's a multi-fiber complex, 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers in here. Soluble means that it's going to soak up fluid and it's going to puff up and expand. It's going to help you feel full. It's going to wrap itself around those carbohydrates and slow down how quickly they enter the bloodstream. The insoluble fibers are long, strandy fibers, and they make a basket weave that are really good for cleaning out your gut. They have some blood sugar regulation because it's carrying some of that out. Balance the pre-meal drink that we drink, if you're using it long term, will help with those blood sugar spikes and lows. But in a blood sugar low that's down as low as 30, um, you could have balance along with the carbohydrates just to kind of help that spike from going too high when you're low, for sure. But would I just take balance alone to expect my blood sugars to come back up? Probably I wouldn't think that way. Okay. So all right, we're talking about are pears safe with the sugar? Yes. So pears actually, so where I was going to with that is pears, you would think I always thought, hey, they're higher in sugar because they're so sweet, right? Pears are sweet and they're amazing. I love pears, but they're also one of the higher fruits in fiber. So that's the key. Between the fiber and the chlorogenic acids in pears, you're having a lower blood sugar spike than you probably would with apples or oranges. Okay. Fiber is the key. So that fiber that encapsulates those blood sugars, the fiber that's cleaning out your gut, that's helping with a blood sugar spike. Pears are very high in fiber, and that's one of the things you could do. Yeah, good to know. Thanks. I'm glad this is resonating. So, you guys really like I started out. It's crazy to me to think, you guys, that I've been doing the system. I counted back. I'll be 61 in 2 months, which means that I've been on the system for 45 months. I lost 55 pounds, completely reversed my diabetes, completely reversed my hypertension, stopped my joint deterioration. My hair is longer than it's ever been. I didn't put on makeup tonight. I haven't put on makeup all day because sometimes I just want to show up live without anything on at 61 to show you what happens when your gut is healthy inside. When you're taking care of your insulin resistance, all of the other stuff just doesn't, you don't have to age like we age. Sugar is one of the big reasons why we have sagging, lax skin, why we're having all of these aging problems. Yeah, so thank you, Maria. I have 2 Marias on tonight. Yay. So I feel better. Every once in a while, I look at pictures of me from 4 years ago, from 5 years ago, and I'm like, who was that woman? I look older. My hair wasn't as healthy. My skin wasn't as healthy. It was all about getting the insulin resistance under control, getting a number of these things under control, and it was simple. I used to spend about, when I was a power lifter, by the way, not a lot of you know, but I was a four-time world champion power lifter in my early 50s. I had to give up powerlifting because my joints were deteriorating, not from the powerlifting, from the insulin resistance that nobody addressed. And it got so bad that my knees just wouldn't stay in joint. They would slip in and out of joint as I walked. I would have to take a couple of steps and stop. And people were always like, why do you do that? And I'm like, well, because my knee just dislocated and I'm waiting for it to shift back in so I can take a few more steps. Crazy. It was a painful life. I don't have any of that now. My joints, by removing the sugars, by removing the inflammation, by changing how I eat just a little bit, my joints have rebuilt. So I have 2 hip replacements and a knee replacement. My other knee was supposed to be replaced 4 years ago, and it still is healthier than it was in my 40s because I got the inflammation down that insulin resistance was causing in my body. Okay. My skin got better. I used to have a turkey neck and it would like wobble when I talked, and I was aware of it. And some kind people on TikTok mentioned it. I still have a little bit of one. I'm 61, but it's not as bad as it used to be, right? Because of insulin resistance is no longer my life. Because it doesn't have to be hard. It's simple. The protocol I use was simple. It's these 2 things. I have a tea in the morning. I have a tea in the afternoon. It gives me energy. It increases GLP-1, which gives me satiety, helps me utilize sugars, helps me have energy, and does a lot of really good in my body, but does it naturally. It increases it about 70% of what a normal GLP-1 spike would be. And I'll try to talk about GLP-1 tomorrow again. Um, that's the gold of this. Plus, there's these things called theobromines and other things in the tea. We'll talk about the tea more tomorrow and get into depth with some of the things that are going on with it. A tea in the morning, a tea in the afternoon. And like I've told you guys, what I usually do is take both of my teas, mix them in about a 40-ounce stainless steel mug, and then just sip on it. Today, I don't know, I had a really good day, and I just felt like I was I was just really committed to drinking it. And I think I was done drinking my tea at noon. And guess what? You can still have another one. I've had 5 or 6 of these in a day. No adverse reactions because it's real food. Meg, I'm going to give you guys a link over on the other channels. And you're just going to go here. Now, it's a system. So it's not just the tea, Meg. It's the tea and the fiber. And let me get to that. So I have a tea in the morning. I have a tea in the afternoon. Gives me energy. Doesn't give me crashes. Increases my mental clarity. Has helped my heart. You're going to get energy. But this is what helped started healing my heart. I had lipids done today. And my high density lipids are high. My triglycerides and my LDL are low, and that's exactly where we want them to be. And I still have fats, I still have sugar, but I just use this, and that's made all the difference for me. So tea in the morning, tea in the afternoon, a pre-meal drink before I have dinner. Now, for me, I still have a pre-meal drink 3 times a day, and I'll explain why in a second. We talked about my food, right? So my breakfast is, and it's pretty satiating. It's that egg. I haven't added this recipe to my cookbook, but I will. It's an ebook. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'd be more than happy to get that out to you guys too. But so I started my day with protein and fats, which keeps me in this fat burning state where ketones are high, HGH is high, my brain is functioning well, my energy is well. Here it is 11 o'clock at night, and I'm still feeling amazing. The system is the system for a reason. The 2 pieces work synergistically. This is going to help with the blood sugar spikes when you eat. So I still have 2 to 3 of these a day. Why? Because at 61, I understand how much damage I've done to my gut and the entirety of my body. I want that fiber in there now that I understand fiber better. I want that fiber in my gut feeding the good microbiome. I don't get yeast infections. Ladies, if you're getting a lot of yeast infections, you're probably insulin resistant. Too much sugar in your body causing those yeast to overtake your system. So you get this itchiness in your personal folds, maybe behind your knees and your elbows. Your skin is a little bit itchy. You have that weird discharge. That can be from insulin resistance. So get that under control, and you'll notice that you have less of those personal yeast infections. Okay. I like the fiber. What I found this last year doing some research is that in just a normal fiber, just a regular one source fiber, they were able to have someone do fiber in the morning, reduce the blood sugar spike by about 10%. 4 to 5 hours later, when the person then ate, that blood sugar spike, because of the presence of fiber from that first time in the day without adding any more, the blood sugar spike went down by 40 to 50%. So this reduces a blood sugar spike initially 37 to 40% on a high glycemic meal. Now, understanding that the effects compound of this giving me protection, even if I were to have a snack or something like I was after my meal, I had a croissant. I understand that because I've had multiple fiber in the day, I have even more protection. That 40% reduction in blood sugar spike is present even later when I have fiber, and I allow it to really work in my system. So there's that. You don't have to. I like having excess fiber, not excess, but additional fiber. The truth is, most of us, we're supposed to get in about 30 to 37 grams of fiber a day, and that's based on a single source fiber. Most of us are getting in 10 to 15 grams, even when we're eating those. When we do a salad, that's really not a lot of fiber unless you're doing like spring greens. So even though there's only about 5 grams of fiber in this, the magic is in the complex of fibers that's in this. That complex, that mix of different types of fibers, is what's keeping the blood sugar spikes at bay much better than a single source fiber could ever imagine. So, let's do this. I'm going to do this. Do you want a single source fiber that gives you about a 10% reduction in a blood sugar spike? Or do you want a multi-source fiber that gives you a 40% reduction in a blood sugar spike and really gives you that protection when you have those moments? Because I had years when I was an athlete that I was doing keto, and I really didn't do carbs. I did carb backloading. It's another topic for another day, but I really didn't do carbs. And it was difficult for people. They're like, oh, Misha's coming over for dinner. What can we feed her? Because she doesn't eat. Like, I was involved with a family, stayed with a family that loved Ethiopian food. They had a couple of Ethiopian kids that they had adopted. And so it's high in carbohydrates, very low in protein. And they were always like, what are we going to do? I never could eat with the family because it just was not my gig. But now I don't have to worry about being the odd guy out. If I go to a wedding, if I go to a birthday, if I do any of those things, I just take an extra one of these with me and know that I'm covered. Do I want to do it every day? No. But it's how I took my A1C from 7.4 down to the 5 range without changing a lot of things drastically and getting my insulin resistance, my diabetes under control. Most importantly, I think maybe next week I'll talk about blood pressure and how highly related it is to insulin resistance, because it's the one thing that I find the most important. So many people are suffering with hypertension and they don't know how to fix it. Insulin resistance is the root of high blood pressure for most of us. My blood pressure was 180 over 150 every day. I used to work in medical offices. I haven't said this for a while. I have a blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope, and I know how to use it. And I would do my own blood pressure every day because I was terrified that I was going to die. My blood pressure was so high. I had it tested at Walgreens. I had it tested at the doctor. I was in the ER multiple times. My blood pressure was 180 over 150 every single day at some point during the day. The best we could get it to in a doctor's office was 150 over 10, 110. I was on 13 different medications, a couple of them trying to address that blood pressure. I take no prescriptions. I haven't filled a prescription in years. My blood pressure every morning when I wake up is 110 over 74. No matter how much or how little sleep I've gotten, no matter how much stress is in my life, my blood pressure is consistently 110 over 74 at 61, postmenopause. Yeah, no medications. This is all I do. Now, do I want to swap out medications for a tea that tastes great? I don't know, Maria, what do you guys think? Does the tea taste great? It has a lemon flavor, so it tastes like a lemon iced tea, and it does. So we'll really dive into the tea tomorrow, okay? What else did I change? So Maria, the biggest thing I changed, now in the beginning, when I lost the weight, when I started making the changes, I didn't change a lot. I was driving for Lyft and Uber during the pandemic. The only thing that was available to me for my long shift out was Burger King or McDonald's, or as it was Jack in the Box or McDonald's. So yeah, at least one meal a day was that crappy food. I didn't change that. I still have pizza. I still eat out. I find now that 4 years in, I can feel the change when I eat those foods more drastically than before because my body's desensitized to the crap food that's out there. But I didn't change a lot. I still eat the foods I love. I just try to, like, watch how much sugar is in them, watch those not the saturated fats, but the trans fats and the seed oils, and make sure that I'm keeping those at bay. And my intestinal system, I don't have the IBS problems. Just added the system in the beginning. And then I started to make small changes, like, having more at home, reducing some of those foods that you have when you eat out. And the problem is that most of the foods when you eat out are covered in those seed oils. Now, recently, I've really become more vigilant at reading labels because I've noticed every once in a while I'll get a hold of a food and then I have urgency. I'm in the bathroom all day. That is when I know that I've gotten a hold of some seed oils or some sugar that I shouldn't have. So I've really become a proponent of just cooking at home as much as possible. I still eat out. I still have, like, the mushroom Swiss burger at Wendy's, one or not at Wendy's. Is it Wendy's? Yeah, Wendy's once in a while, whatever. Um, but it's funny, I go to a drive-through and I'm like, I don't know what you have, cause I don't eat out that often." I didn't change a lot, you guys. It's not like I went on some Puritan diet where I just went carnivore or I cut out all the carbs or any of that. I just added this in and paid attention to some of those things like excess sugars, highly processed foods, and seed oils. Okay. I'm working on getting better sleep. That's why I'm coming live at night because I found I'm awake at night. I'm just my circadian rhythm. I'm a night person. So I'm allowing myself to sleep in the morning to allow myself to get better sleep, and that works. So, yeah, there's a lot of things we can do. Again, you guys, 6 simple steps. Go to my profile. Yes, you can buy the protocol there. Yes, you can get the number that's above my head there. You can text me and ask me questions. I'm more than happy to answer. But there's also that free resource of the 6 simple steps that covers these 6 simple steps. Fiber first before you eat, especially high carb meals. Prioritize protein. We are not getting in enough protein. I haven't talked about this for a long time. Most people that I work with are complaining that, they if they're complaining they can't lose weight or they're having problems, we start to check their protein levels, and lo and behold, a lot, especially of women, are getting in less than 30 grams of protein a day. How do you expect to build muscle and all of the other tissue that the body has to have, heart, lungs, liver, intestines, if you're not getting in enough protein? Most of us should be getting in 80 to about 120 grams of protein. That's one thing. So fiber first. Prioritize protein. Remember, proteins don't spike your carbohydrate, your blood sugar in the way that carbohydrates do. And as someone mentioned earlier, there is another receptor. I call it a backdoor, GLUT4, and I think it is GLUT2, that allow that blood sugar spike from proteins to get into the cells without the spike of insulin. So then number 3 is focus on healthy fats. Don't fear them. So extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, and ghee. Okay. I still have, like, I don't buy 2% milk. I don't buy 1% milk. That's a lot of carbohydrates, not enough fats and protein. I only buy heavy whipping cream, and I do put it in my protein shakes. I use cream cheese. I use a whole fat cottage cheese. I have yogurt once in a while with whole fat, but I don't do any of those in a fasting window. Okay. Um, Fiber, protein, fats. The fourth one is limit your carbs, especially those bagged, boxed, highly processed carbs. Step number 5 is do some intermittent fasting. Remember, it doesn't have to be hard. Your body just is so dysregulated right now that it feels difficult. Intermittent fasting is key to getting your insulin under control. And number 6 is move your body. Most of us are far too sedentary, me included. Now, in the ebook, I added 2 other things, and we're going to go back to that. Limit your blue light time. If you have to be online like I am right now, and I am most of the day because I work from home, we're all on computers, I wear blue light blocking glasses, especially before bed. That blue light cues your brain to stay awake. So if you're online doom scrolling at night, you're telling your brain to stay awake, and that's going to spike your insulin. So blue light blocking glasses, if you have a prescription or not, you can buy them anywhere online. wear them to protect yourself from that blue light that's actually can spike your insulin, and get some good rest. Okay. It's all in the ebook, 6 simple steps. You can just message me and say 6 simple steps. You can click on the link in my profile and get it. That's going to help you start to find some direction. And there's a lot of really good information in that. My story is in there. All of the information you could want is in that ebook that I created for you guys. So I did want to give this tip tonight for those of you guys that follow me a lot. And I went from power lifter to not working out because my joints were so damaged. I was in pain all the time. And so I'm struggling. I love working out, but my lifestyle is different. One thing I talked last night about moving your legs. Your legs are the part of your body that's going to help you become insulin sensitive the quickest. You can do all the arm curls you want. You can build I saw a guy this weekend whose biceps literally were as big as my head. That's great. But you know what's going to get you insulin sensitive quicker? Your legs, your waist down. Work that area. I mean, don't skip your abs and your arms and all of that. But if you really want maximum impact, work your legs. Go for a walk. Do some body weight squats. Do some deadlifts, some kettlebell swings. But one thing, especially my ladies who are over 50 and gentlemen as well, one thing that you can do that's quick, it's effective, and it's going to wear you out is some jump training. Simple. You don't have to have a lot of equipment. You don't have to go anywhere. I do it in the morning while I'm listening to my podcasts and whatnot. I just jump in place. Sometimes I move my arms and I do jumping jack, but jumping in place, just simple jumping in place. It doesn't have to be box jumps. It doesn't have to be doing any of that. Can help you become more insulin sensitive in 1 minute. 1 minute a day. Plus, it's going to help build your bone density. It's going to help your joints. It's going to help your heart. I noticed the first day that within an hour, my metabolism kicked up so much that I was sweating where I was cold before I started jump training. You guys look into it. If you have a rebounder, great. You don't need one. I just stand in my living room, watch my podcast, and jump for a minute at a time. That's going to help you. Okay. So that's my little tip for today. But if you guys are interested in the system, just use my link. Now on TikTok, you guys, I have a number of tabs. If you look at the top of my videos, there's a number of tabs, and I tried to put them in a more sensical order. Tomorrow night, maybe we won't talk about the tea. I'd like to talk about how you can tell you're insulin resistant, some signs and symptoms, and some things that might be happening besides the diseases I have listed above, so that you can understand, does this apply to you? But there's a how to tell tab. There's a tab on the tea. There's a tab on fiber. And then there's tabs on some of the other things that might be relevant to you. I've tried to start organizing those. I'm creating a tab on the 6 simple steps. I'm about partway through those 6 simple steps, and I'm continuing to create those videos. So check out those tabs. You don't have to search through all my videos. And then there's a tab for some success stories. A number of people who've overcome PCOS, people who've overcome Hashimoto's, a guy who had stage 3 kidney disease who's overcome that, tons of people who have lost weight and reversed their diabetes and overcome hypertension by doing this system and addressing their insulin resistance. And I wish I had the other tea here, because it's 2 teas in a day and 1 fiber. And that's it. Because if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I will answer your questions as much as I can. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I cannot diagnose. Please do not message me asking me, what do I do about a certain disease? Okay. So Maria, if you go to, just after this live, go to my profile, and you know where all of my videos are. There's little tabs right above my videos at the very top. So my profile picture, some information, my links, and then there's these little tabs, and it will tell you how to tell the tea, the fiber, whatever. And then you can go into those tabs and find most of the information. By the way, in the tea tab, when we talk about this, we'll probably talk about this on Thursday night. There is a video by Dr. Huberman talking about the benefits of chlorogenic acids and the GLP-1 response. That's in a normal yerba mate tea. This yerba mate tea has been concentrated so that it's about 375 times more potent than the yerba mate he's talking about. So you get a much better response that's safe for your body. These are both food products. When I've been traveling, I've had 3 to 6 of these in a day, suffered no ill response from it. Yeah, and the thing is personal stuff, right? But we all need to hear this. If you're I'm going to stop for a second. If you're not pooping at least once a day, you have a problem. If you're not pooping about an hour to 2 hours after you eat, you have a problem. Fiber is going to help that. So what's happening? Now I'm going to be off on a tangent. What's happening when you're not pooping after you eat? All of that's sitting in your gut and rotting and causing inflammation. You want it to pass through. You want it to go through the small intestine. You want that food, that small intestine to do its job and pull out the nutrients that you need and the energy you need. And then you want to pass the waste on through. And you don't want that waste getting stuck in your gut. If you're not getting in enough fiber, that's going to happen. If you're not pooping once a day, you're going to start to have indigestion, inflammation, all of these things. And guess what? Those jab drugs that everybody's using for weight loss cause your food to get stuck in your intestines. There was a woman who recently posted her own story. She was on those jab drugs and ended up in the hospital with her intestines essentially frozen, wouldn't move the stuff out. They had to clear out her gut. She was like, I'm never going on it again because they didn't address the root cause of why she gained weight. She ended up back on the drugs again, ended up having the same problem and was like, what am I doing? I'm killing myself for my weight. So you guys, you're here, you're learning what's actually at the root of these problems. Weight, hypertension, liver problems, kidney problems, Hashimoto's, PCOS, in low testosterone, erectile dysfunction. Those drugs aren't fixing them. So what is? Getting your insulin resistance under control can reverse it once and for all. And it's as simple as that. Safely, effectively. Oh, by the way, there's a 90-day money back guarantee. When you use my link, you're also getting access to me. You can ask me questions, Maria, and Maria can tell you. I actually respond. So there's that. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks for hanging out with me. I need to go to bed because I'm all keyed up. Well, I need to go calm down so I can go to bed. I love talking to you guys. We'll see you tomorrow night. If you have questions, reach out. I'm more than happy to answer. And thanks for spending your time with me tonight. Have a good one. Good night, you guys. Maria, Meg, I hope you got the answers that you need. If you didn't, please reach out. Maria. Sometimes my phone goes off in the middle of the night. And I'm like, who's texting me? And I look and I'm like, oh, Maria found something I need to see. I love your text. Have a good night, you guys.